Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. This is a little something different, of course. This is going to be another Roseanne reboot review. I'm only doing these because I kind of enjoy the show and I like talking about the show to pretty much anybody who will listen. And I really enjoy the show. And unfortunately, people aren't liking my reviews that much. I'm not getting any views out of them. But you know what? I'm going to keep doing them anyway. I didn't put one out on Wednesday like I normally would have because I ended up sick Wednesday morning. And I've been dealing with that ever since. And so I really didn't have I hardly even had enough time to put out the video about Kanye that I made. But anyhow, let's get into the show. Now, of course, they've been dealing with a lot in the Connor family, of course, throughout the series, the current reboot and everything. And this episode is no different. This episode had to do with partly had to do with Bev, which was a big portion of the show. Their mother, Roseanne and Jackie's mom, needing a place to stay, and neither one of them wanting to really have her living with them, and not really knowing what to do about it because they didn't want to put her in the county home where she wouldn't get the proper care she needed. But of course, they have problems with their mom, with her being a little overbearing and a bit annoying. And so they didn't really know what to do with her. And so they tried to figure out what to do. They were going to send her with Jackie, and she and Jackie had a blow up, of course, and it sent Bev leaving. And then she tried to live with Becky, and Becky was like all good about it. And then she found out her grandmother didn't have any money anymore, and then found out that she was sleeping or having sex in her apartment, and apparently she was kind of grossed out by that. And at the end of the day, it ended up they ended up getting back together, figuring out what to do with her and everything, and ends up that she's living with Jackie now, is what they finally come up with, and according to Jackie, they're going through therapy and things like that so they can actually live together. And sadly, except for the funny, I mean, they try to make it funny. They always do. That's what they do with Roseanne. They make it seem, they go through. They try to make light of things. Try to, so you can get the information, but still get a laugh out of it at the same time. And there are a lot of people right now having to deal with this. There are a lot of people in this country that are dealing with family members. The parents not having enough savings to survive through the retirement, or having health issues or whatever that causes them to become their parents' caretaker. And it causes financial strains. It can cause relationship strains, between husbands and wives. It causes all sorts of problems when this happens. But as Americans do, and most people do, we do our best to solve the problem. And of course, Roseanne and them had a funny way of showing, how to do it. It was a little weird in places, but it was very true to what's been going on. Now, this isn't just a new problem. This is something that's gone on, for ages. But since the economic collapse back in 2007, 2008, it's been happening more and more often, even as the economy continues to improve. And so, I think they did a really good job of presenting this problem. And I think a lot of people are going to be, would probably received it pretty well, I think, because it hits home for a lot of people. It hasn't really been something that's affected me personally, but, I do know that, families go through this all the time where, if some family member needs help and they end up getting, it ends up creating a bit of a problem for the family. So I'm glad that Roseanne pointed this out and showed the problems that people are having. That's one thing I love about Roseanne. I've always loved about Roseanne. They've never shied away from hitting, hard-hitting stories. They give you some humor, they give you some fun, but they show you the hard life that some people are having. And I'm really glad that Roseanne was able to bring that out and show this, this other side of things to people. Because we don't have shows like this on like Roseanne right now, except for Roseanne. And so I think that's a really good thing what they're doing, and I think it's really cool what they did on that part. So at the end of the day, Bev ends up moving in with Jackie, and everything seems to be going okay. And that's where they leave that particular storyline at the end of the show. Also in the show, though, they talked about Darlene's son, Mark. Of course, if you remember Mark from the first episode of the show and talked about a little bit throughout the series so far, Mark is the one that's a little eccentric. He's a little different. I guess a lot different. He dresses in likes girls' clothes, skirts, bright colors, and other female attire, things like that. And he does makeup, fingernail polish, all that kind of stuff. That drives Dan and Roseanne kind of nuts. But they love him and they want to care for him at the same time and want to make sure he's safe. And I think that's awesome. But this story wasn't about his affinity for female attire or anything like that. This was about teaching kids how to follow directions. And how following directions is really important. And it also showed, though, how you need to be able to give your kids room to grow and room to be who they are. And in the story, Roseanne's husband, of course, Dan Connor, played by John Goodman, has a job he's been doing for a person in town. And part of that job involved making a birdhouse for this gentleman. And so he gave the kid directions on how to make the birdhouse, what to do. And Mark comes back with this brightly colored, off-the-wall design of a birdhouse. That way they never have to go inside, basically, is what Mark was saying. And Dan was, needless to say, a bit angry at it. He was mad because you still have to follow directions. Even if you're a very imaginative person, you still have to follow directions. And I think this is a problem that people and families have to deal with all the time, is to make sure that your kids are able to be themselves, but at the same time are learning, how to survive in society. So they have a long talk about it. Darlene and Dan have an argument about it, which leads to Dan changing up why he never made the NFL and everything, or never played football in the NFL. And that was because he never followed directions on one play in high school that lost them the state championship or whatever. And of course, Darlene hits back with a funny little quip about how I thought that was, having kids and drinking beer, basically, that led to him not being able to play football any further past high school. But at the end of the day, Mark comes down with a plain Jane, everyday birdhouse, but gave it a little bit of a flair by basically painting some flowers on the inside of the birdhouse. That way the birds had some flowers, I guess, on the inside of their house. And so Dan was happy, Dan was pleased, and Darlene was pleased that he was able to, put some of himself into the project while at the same time following the rules and the directions that he was given. Now, that's a big thing right there, because kids a lot of times are stifled in their creativity. They're not, they've got parents or they've got teachers that just stifle their creativity. My creativity was great. Then I went to college, and that's where I lost mine. I always had good teachers growing up. I had a mom who was very supportive of anything I did. Like when I was trying to write, she was supportive of that. When I wanted to do music, she was pretty supportive of that, even though neither one of those went anywhere. I wanted to do music because I love music. It's one of my favorite venues or areas to express myself. But I was never very good at writing music. Could I sing? Sure. Was I good at writing music? No. Books, I've never been able to write a book. I do really good at starting them, and then my mind just fades away from what I'm writing. So, but my creativity was never stifled growing up. My mom, if I wanted to write a story, my mom wouldn't have said not to. She wouldn't have pushed me in any direction that I didn't want to go. And my teachers were pretty much the same. There were a few English teachers that wanted to tell me exactly how I'm supposed to write and what I'm supposed to write and things like that. But at the same time, you have to know how to follow directions and follow the rules to get through life in society and to progress. And within those rules, there's always, in those directions, there's always ways to express yourself, I think, in a way. And I think that's what they were showing here with Mark, is that, yes, you can be creative, but at the same time, you have to follow the rules. You got to follow the directions given. And if there's room for you to express yourself in that, then you can try it. But when somebody asks you to make a certain product, it has to show up to them the way they want it. Anyhow, this has been yet another Roseanne Reboot review brought to you by the Big Ranch Show. And that's really all I got for you right now. Have a great day. I'll see you down the road. And don't forget, Roseanne airs Tuesday, ABC, at 7 o'clock Central Time. I believe that's going to be 8 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget to watch if you haven't caught up yet. They gave you a good chance a week ago when they took the week off and they ran all the episodes. If not, check it on ABC on demand or whatever, or any other place that you might be able to find it. I haven't seen it on Hulu as of yet, but it could be there. Anyhow, y'all have a great day, and I'll see you down the road.